All right. Good evening and greetings to all of you. So we are about to begin our bi-weekly sutra discussion with the venerable monks. We don't have nuns. we invite the nuns to join the discussion, but they are busy with their programs. But at least we are very happy to have the presence of the venerable monks. So before we begin the discussion on today's topic, let us pay our respect or homage to the Buddha. Let's recite Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I pay my homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Dear Venerable Sirs, dear Dhamma friends, so today we are going to have another lovely discussion, a very productive discussion on the theme becoming the lover of solitude, based on a sutra from the Majjhima Nikaya, and the name of the sutta is Bhadderaka Sutta. So before we get into all the details of this sutta, I would like to introduce our venerable monks to our audience. So first, we have Venerable Yogavachara Rahula, and it's so good to see you, Bhante Rahula, after 2 months, I guess. I always send an email invitation to you, and whenever you're free, you make sure to join. So today we are very happy to have you. Bhante Yogavachara Rahula is from Washington, D.C. Then we have Bhante Nanda. He is joining the discussion from Long Island in New York. He also just finished a 3-day retreat for the public. It was amazing to see people devoting their time to the practice of meditation. So what you're doing is amazing. And Bhante Yogavachara Rahula also just finished a retreat for the public. And all the monks are busy. And then we have Venerable Trudeau joining the discussion from Florida. And just this afternoon, we had a very good discussion, conversation. I'm hoping to see you in Toronto soon before you leave for Vietnam. And then we have Bhante Jayasara joining the discussion from New Jersey, USA. And today we have a Canadian monk, Bhante Viveka, joining the discussion from New Brunswick, Eastern Canada. I'm very happy to see you, Venerable Viveka, after a long time. And very happy to hear you thinking of visiting Sri Lanka, Mitrigala Forest Monastery, and you're going to have amazing time there. And then we have Venerable Shanta Sobana joining the discussion from Los Angeles, California. And then we have Bhante Jinananda. Last time he joined the discussion from Japan. This time, actually, he's here at our temple. He just finished the meditation retreat at our temple, and soon he will be flying out to Saskatchewan. So before he leaves for airport, he wanted to join the discussion. Then today, I'm extremely happy to see Bhante Subodha from New York. And he's also another very busy monk busy a lot of programs, and so today he made sure to join the discussion, and I'm very happy to see you, Venerable Subodha. And I know you also closely work with Bhante Bodhi, Bhikkhu Bodhi, and we are going to learn a lot from you. And then we have Venerable Bhante Ananda Kalubovila. He is joining the discussion from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And we have some friends and Dhamma friends and students here on Zoom platform. I would like to welcome all of you to this discussion. And especially I see Charlie, he's joining the discussion from Seattle, United States. And there are people who are also watching this program live on Facebook and YouTube. So before we get into the discussion, I would like to make a kind request to all of you and also to all our friends who are watching this program on social media timelines. If it is possible, please share this discussion on your social media timelines for the greater benefit of your friends and colleagues. And today's discussion is going to be another amazing, meaningful, very fruitful discussion. I believe many people would benefit from the insights that the monks are going to share with everyone. So, as I said, today's the sutta that we are going to discuss is the Bhatterika Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, and we just titled the discussion as becoming the ideal lover of solitude for health and wellness. So before I ask some questions, I would like to invite Venerable Ananda from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, to give us a summary of this sutta.
Dear Venerable and all the Dhamma friends, so Bhatterika Sutta is a very powerful sutta, and often we see in the later philosophical traditions of different schools of thought within Buddhism, this has been a very debated sutta. If you know that there were two main schools of thought, the Theravada, Vibhajyavada school of thought, and the Sarvastivadi school of thought. So they have been using this sutta to debate on different interpretations of what Buddhism is. However, getting back to the sutta, we find it in the Majjhima Nikaya, one of my favorite nikayas out of the all, Majjhima Nikaya, where we find a lot of beautiful suttas, and this happened to be in the Vibhanga Vagga. The Bhatterika Sutta, the same sutta sort of repeats in the same idea, repeats in 4 other suttas or 3 more other suttas. So there are 4 suttas which looks very similar. So the Bhatterika Sutta, and then we have the Ananda Bhatterika Sutta, Mahakachayana Bhatterika Sutta, and Loma Sakangya Bhatterika Sutta. So those 4 seems to be delivering the same message with very subtle nuances. And the next important thing is the word Bhatterika, what does it mean? Does it mean a name, or does it have a specific thing? Now, I'm going to leave that question open-ended to be answered by all the venerable monks. However, that Bhatte usually means the auspicious or noble. So Bhatterika is translated as the one fine night in the edition that I'm looking at. And then it could also mean the solitude, the ekatta. And it even goes into things like one moment, momentariness, oneness, etc. So the exact meaning of what Bhatterika, is it just a name of someone, or is it does it have a deeper meaning? I'm going to leave it to the venerable monks. But then we find the sutta in 2 parts. One is the main part, where it is often used in many occasions. I will read it out. The main part is that, as said to Bhikkhu Ananda, don't run back to the past, don't hope for the future. What's past is left behind, the future has not arrived, and phenomena in the present are clearly seen in every case, knowing this forstate, unfaltering, unshakable. The Pali verse of that would be, which is very famous, I use it all the time, Atitan Nanvagameya Nappatikanke Anagata Yatatitan pahinantan appatancha anagatan. Pachuppanna yodamma tatta tatta vipassati asanhiram asankuppam tam vidava manubrugai. So that's the Pali verse of that. Now, the first part, again, I will leave it to the Venerable Monks to keep explaining on it. But the rough meaning is that leave the past which is spent and don't expect the future which is yet to come. So, if anyone have watched the Kung Fu Panda, the turtle in the Kung Fu Panda says the same message that the past is gone, the future is a mystery, and look at the present. So, Pachuppanna yodamma tatta tatta vipassati. Now, having said that, it comes to the second part of it, which is a further explanation of what is meant here. But before we go there, let me hold on the present, because it's been discussed in the West a lot. Now, the word present is used as the three times: past, present, and future. However, the word here used is Pachuppanna. This is the term that a lot of schools of thought are arguing about. Does that mean a present moment, a momentariness, or is it something else? However, what I could say is that in our experience, we really all the experiences we have had up to this point from the entirety of our life is nothing but memories sitting in our mind. And everything which could happen in the next year, 2024, they are all contemplations right now. And then we are left with the moment now. But if we really look closer, there's nothing called the present moment. It's a flux of things. It's a continuous change of things, but we don't find a single point of time called the present moment, which we can enjoy and experience. When we were doing physics back in the high school, there were these mathematical equations. You have to find that the time is equal to 0 and the time will be equal to 5. Find the velocity of the object when the time is t. So that is very abstract. We don't find that time stopping for us to enjoy. It's a continuous flux that we enjoy. So the meaning of present moment is again a very subjective thing. The word used in the Pali Canon is the Pachuppanna yodamma. It is not about a moment of time, but about the dharma or the universal phenomena which are occurring at the time. And then we come to the second part of it. So someone who is not aware of the dhamma, there is the case where an uninstructed, run-of-the-mill person who has not seen the Noble One, is not versed in the teachings of the Noble Ones, is not trained in the teachings of the Noble Ones. Again, we find this verse almost in all the suttas. Asutava Putajano, Aryanan Adasavi, Aryadammasa Apovido, Aryadammo Avinito, Sapurisanan Adasavi. It's like a blame that Buddha says all the time, that the nature of the people who haven't heard, who haven't been instructed properly, who hasn't seen the noble reality. And so the second part goes into explain that a person who hasn't seen it will one get carried away with the delight of in the past I had such a form, sensation, perception, volition, consciousness, etc. Now again, to understand this sutta, it's very important that we understand the concept of 5 aggregates: form, sensation, perception, volitions, and consciousness. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. And why I'm repeating that is that as a beginner, as a novice person, when I was trying to read the Pali Canon, it was very confusing. It looked a lot of words together, but once you decode it, once you identify the pattern, it becomes very easy that it's the same patterns keep occurring at different formats. So someone who has not understood or who has not seen the noble path, he would get carried away with the delight. In the past, I had such a form, and then such a sensation, such a perception, etc. So he would have the same contemplation. In the future, I might have such a form, I might have such a sensation, I might have such a perception, volition, consciousness, etc. Now, those are the two parts where a person who is not known, and then it comes and says a person who is seen will not see it that way. he will not think that I had a form like that, I had a sensation like that, perception like that, or I will have a sensation, perception, etc. like in the future. And then the Pachupanna is the most important one. Again, this core message which is given in the Pachupanna part, we see it repeated in many suttas. If we take Sabbasava Sutta, many suttas that we see the same thing. And to shed a bit of light to that, Buddha, in the time of Buddha, the fundamental argument about what's the fundamental reality of the world was the Hindu or the Vedic teaching that the two realities of the world are Atman and Brahman. And those two are the fundamental realities. And the eventual way to find emancipation is to find this oneness of Atman and Brahman. Now, Buddha had to say otherwise, and there was this continuous battle between how one identifies Atma. So the Pachupanna or the present person who has seen the noble path would not perceive it this way. He will not see form as self, or self as possessing form as in self as in form. Now, the word form, I'm referring to the five aggregates: form, sensation, perception, etc. So I'm only taking the form here, but it applies to all the other four as well. So again, let me repeat. It becomes very complicated, but I'll try to not complicate it. So there's future, there's past, and then there's the present. So someone could see that form as self. Another way to say is that Atman is the form. That is the fundamental reality. The second one is self as possessing form. Form is owned by the Atman. The third one is form is in self, where form is part of Atman, and self as in form, where Atman is within form. So that is the Pachupanna. So someone who has seen the noble path would not perceive it this way, and he will be eligible to be called a Vande Karanta. So that's the rough message in this sutta. Like Bhante Sangrapala mentioned, one fine night or the solitude is another discussion point that we have. And I remember a beautiful book written by Katakuru Dhanyananda Theru on the same concept. So we find many suttas in the same light, and Khaggavisana Sutta, which goes into say the solitudeness, the need for that as a mendicant, etc. So as for the Bhante Karanta Sutta and all the other three following Sutta, this is the summary of that. We find the key idea that don't come back to the past, don't hope for the future. What's past is left behind, the future has not arrived. And the phenomena in the present are clearly seen in every case. Atitan nanvamikavayya nappatikanke anagatan yadapitam pahinatan appantancha anagatan achuppanancha yoga. So that's the key message in Bhante Karanta Sutta. As we go on, we'll discuss more and get to the deeper.
I think all the young people will really like this.
Oh, thank you so much, Venerable Ananda, for giving such a beautiful summary of the sutta. I think we have so much to learn from this discourse of the Buddha found in the Majjhima Nikaya. And of course, the theme is becoming the ideal lover of solitude, or creating or building an auspicious day or night or something like that. And when we talk about this sutta, now it goes well with Bhante Rahula's book, One Night's Shelter. And he just said, there's a second version of it just published, and it can be found on Amazon. So maybe that's an extension of that book and more insights. And I don't know whether there's a connection to your book, Bhante Rahula, One Night Shelter, to this sutta. When you were writing that book, did you have any idea of this sutta?
Well, thank you for allowing me to share some of this very important sutta. Actually, as Bhante Ananda mentioned, there are 3 other suttas in this with the same topic, and only the introductions are a little bit different. The one I like a lot is the conversation between one monk who is taking a bath in Rajgir at the pond, and a deva came to him and said, "Monk, do you know the Bhagavad Sutta, the verses of having one excellent night?" That's the way one is translated. The monk said, "No, I don't know that." And then he asked the deva, "Do you know it?" The deva said, "I don't know it either, but this is the essentials of the holy life." You're saying this is the essentials of the whole teaching of the Buddha, is understanding this sutta about not running back to the past or clinging to the past, nor trying to, think about the future. So anyway, that's just a side incident. But yes, actually, the title of my autobiography, I titled it as One Night Shelter, but I had not read this sutta then. In fact, I didn't even have much experience in the Buddha's teaching, but it was based on a Zen story of monks who used to travel to monastery and asked to stay a night in a monastery, and then they were required to give a debate to the master, and but anyway, they were only allowed to stay one night and then move on because they didn't want them to get attached to any place. So actually, the title of One Night Shelter is about impermanence. And it's like the way I tried to write the book or illustrate it was that every experience that I had from my birth up until the time I, got ordained as a monk was just a continually changing sequences of, sight, sound, smells, taste, touches, or identities. I was a toddler for a couple of years, and I was a teenager, and I was a Boy Scout, and I was a college student, and I was in the army, and then even become a monk. So all these are just temporary shelters our mind takes refuge in. So people are taking shelter even in a momentary experience, listening to some nice music, eating some nice food. For a few seconds, they're just enjoying, but then it finishes, and then the mind has to seek something else because something is always coming through the senses. So, that's the nature of every person's life. That every experience we have is just one night shelter or a momentary experience that either we like with attachment or we don't like with aversion. But, then they vanish or change very quickly, and then we have something else. So, everybody's life from the moment they're born to the moment they died, it's like that. Anyway, that's for some reason when I read that, that understanding in this book, it talked about the one night shelter. That I didn't even have the idea of writing a book then, but only later when I started writing the book, that name came to my mind, and I just had to use that. Now, coming back to this sutta, I just wanted to mention that, there's two aspects of solitude. And one is the physical solitude. Now, the Buddha, as we all know, recommended the monks to observe physical solitude, live alone in the forest, or at least spend much of their time in physical solitude, going to the forest, meditating, or going to other places, because when we're distracted, we all know that when we're, surrounded by people and surrounded by a lot of sensory stimulations, it's not very easy to concentrate the mind. So the physical solitude of living in a monastery or spending times meditating or just walking alone in the forest. You're not distracted by sort of the man-made noises and other interactions that would stir up our memories or desires or aversions. So the mind can be more peaceful, just experiencing the vibrations of nature. So that's one aspect of the importance of the ideal solitude in terms of the physical solitude. Now, this sutta actually focuses, as was already mentioned, on the solitude of the mind. Now, sometimes you're all familiar with, of course, the 4 jhanas and so on. And the second jhana is said to be the noble silence, where one experiences noble silence. When applied and sustained thought has subsided, and one is experiencing just the piti, the sukha, and the ekagata. So that's a noble silence. So that's one aspect of the ideal mental solitude. And usually we get that by having the physical solitude. Now, and basically, the sutta means learning how to keep the mind in the present moment, not grasping at the past nor the future, because all the problems in our mind and in the world at large are when we start thinking about the past and the future. We're comparing, we're judging from the past and projecting that into the future, and then we greed, hatred, worry, fear, anxiety, and the whole gamut of mental pollutions and distractions arise because of grasping at the past and the future. And even the sense of self, even the sense of I, is basically made up or based on the past and the future. Because when a young baby is born, its mind is still in the present moment. And only after about 6 months or a year, when it starts to learn language and all of its relatives are giving it things, and it starts to experience pleasurable feelings, and over again, it starts to identify that object that brought us the pleasant feeling, and then starts to want it again another time or in the future. If something causes an unpleasant feeling, it has aversion to that and doesn't want it to come again in the future. And so it's remembering, as was already mentioned by Venerable Ananda, that the mind has kept all of these memories and ideas ever since we were born, even from, of course, previous lives too, but especially in this life. And that's all it feeds off of. And so we're just recreating the past. Even when you identify a sound as a certain person, you hear this voice, you say, oh, that's Bhante Roda. That's because you heard it last month. Or even seen the photo, right?
Yeah,
so you identify it. And then maybe you didn't like me, or you did like me. You said, oh, he gives a good talk, he doesn't give any good talks. So all of these biases come into our mind, right? That's why that's part of the not clinging to the past, and not clinging to the, projecting the future, wanting the future, because that's all connected with pleasurable feeling and painful feeling. And pleasurable feeling is connected with greed for the future, and painful feeling is remembering the past and not wanting that painful feeling to come again. And so that keeps feeding the sense of ourself. Whenever we react to remember the past and kind of want to have it again, recreate it, or thinking about the future and not wanting that to come again, we reinforce the sense of our ego, the self. And, the sense of the self is one of the cornerstone or the deepest aspects of the Buddhist teaching about no self. the sense of I, me, and mine that we have in the mind, everything that we do every second is based on I, me, and mine. And we keep recreating it every time we keep on identifying the past, wanting to bring the past into the future, or craving the future. And so getting caught into that. That is that is how the mind is keep recreating, creating its world moment by moment. The Buddha mentioned in another sutta about telling the Deva Rohitisa that the world, the rising of the world, the ceasing of the world, and the path leading to the ceasing of the world is right within this 5 or 6 foot long body with its, memory and consciousness. So, this is actually the description of that process. And also, when the mind is in the present moment, it's a very healing vibration. Now, the present moment is a kind of a vibration. It's when you're not reacting to anything. There's this very subtle vibration of just kind of isness or being. And it's not, it's not thinking or identifying with anything that's coming through the senses. And it's a super subtle vibration. Only but when you've attained, let's say, the state of at least the first jhana or the second jhana, then you definitely start feeling that kind of vibration. That's what I just call the vibration of the present moment. It's sort of the consciousness in complete rest. That's actually gone beyond the dualistic consciousness. Anyway, that has a healing vibration to the body and the mind. And because that vibration, all the cells of the body start vibrating in a harmony because there's no friction and antagonism. And so that creates a very feedback through the whole body and mind system that is like a healing. And the same for our consciousness, when our mind is no longer dredging up thoughts and various emotions. That is a healing vibration. Just like when you enter deep sleep at night and you're not dreaming or you're not thinking about things, then that's also considered to be a healing. That's why sleep is important for people. But in meditation, you can enter that state and not be asleep, still be, alert. So, and that's why if you can spend a night, in that kind of awareness, in that present moment awareness, then you will have definitely spent auspicious night or having the ideal solitude. And eventually, you maintain that state long enough, you enter the stream, you experience that state of total ego. So anyway, that's what I wanted to.
Thank you, Bhante Rahula. The healing vibration, the term that you used, I really love it. That is the main sign of health or wellness today. Most psychotherapists are talking about living in the present. So thank you so much for sharing the essence of this Bhattirika Sutta.
Let me write to you guys on YouTube.
So next, I see Venerable Shanta Sobana from Los Angeles. And so what can we learn from this sutta, and how do we become the ideal lover of solitude for our own health and wellness? Venerable Shanta Sobana.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sirs, and with the respect to all the Venerable Sirs. So this sutta is a very interesting sutta, as all other Venerable monks mentioned. So when it comes to this Bhaddeka Ratta Sutta, that basically, if we look at the Pali language, that it mainly that some people explain this word Ratta as the night. But if we look at the deeper into other sutras and the very essence of the sutra, there is nothing about the night. It's about the deeper self-understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, how this ideal level of solitude can lead to health and wellness. So if we look into deeper, then we can understand the meaning and the very essence of the sutra. So the solitude, the very word of the solitude, the state of being alone or isolated, often by choice. It's not by mistake. It's a conscious decision. And other one is the physical separation and disconnect from external world for the purpose of self-care. So that is another thing. And another meaning come introspection, also called solitude, and creativity, personal growth, and also another deeper meaning, deeply enriching experience that can lead to the greater understanding of oneself and the world. So then, when it comes to solitude, it is because sometimes people think the being solitude or love of solitude, it's kind of like become self-centered. But here we understand it is nothing to do with the self-centered, but it is about self-growth. And why this self-growth is, or the introspection or the self-care is very necessary, because when it comes to our life, regarding the past and the future, here we have to be very clear. Here this past mean not in this conventional level of the past, because we always study the history, and even when it comes to the sutras, even that we talk about the Buddha, and we all talk about this the historical evidence, and even when we talk about the generosity and the dana, and we talk about the future. So it's not about here this time-wise the past or the future. So the thinking about the past and the future means when it comes to our very present moment, in this very moment we experience in our mind some events happen in the past or the future, but that all the events most of the time related to somebody or something, or the name or the form. As example, if we think about some in this very moment, if we think about something especially related to any sadness, worry, disappointment, or somehow there is somebody there. So that myself, and then there is another person. So that always two people inside our mind. So even related to the future also the same. So here Baddheka Ratha means, can we detach from that person, whoever related to past or the future, and be in the moment? Because when it comes to the four foundations, contemplate on the body, contemplate on the sensation or the feelings, contemplate on the mind, or the contemplate on the Dhamma. So that means in the very moment that if we can come to this present moment, in this very moment of experience within ourselves, without thinking about somebody, so here that you mount to the very moment of experience. So Baddha means the mount is, and the Eka means the very present moment of the experience. The Ratha means that the always you have the continuation and the desire to be with it. So in that way, if anybody detach from the past experience or the future desires related to something or somebody, and become completely satisfied with the moment, that another way have the kind of like a contentment related to the moment or the being who is the very moment of experience as who I am, being in the moment. So it take to the very deeper meaning that the Baddheka Ratha. So and here, why this we thinking about somebody or something related to the past or the future? Even though we experience inside us, it has a name or the form, it has a picture, it has a person. Actually, the deeper current is that bringing this all the memory, greed, hatred, and the delusion. If there is no greed or the no hatred or the no delusion, there is no deeper that we attach to some kind of memory, and we not going to that compare it to ourselves. Because in the Pali, there is a word called manyamana. This is very important. Manyamana means whatever happened in the past or whatever going to happen in the future, we bringing together and connect it to the self. I am. It happened to me. Oh, it happened to. It's going to happen to me. It always thinking about that real self-centered. But if the person detached from that and get out of the greed, hatred, and the delusion, then even though we see the past or the future, it's not related to me. So, of course, that we always see the past, and when it comes to the meditation and the bhavana, it's one of the meaning is the memorizing. So that doesn't mean in the being in the present moment always we detach from the past or the future. No, when the Buddha attained to the Buddhahood, one of the things is he remembered everything in the past. So then with the memory is very necessary, but without self-related to the attachment to that. So then how it going to become that the important with the health and well-being. So that is what the very interesting part. So when we look at the Ayurveda, very fundamental energy of our physical and mental body, there are three things: Vata, Pitta, Sema. So Vata is related to the air or the ether, and it deeply philosophically related to the ignorance. When the ignorance is high, always the problem with the air, the going to experience. And when the Vata is balanced, that means that when our ignorance is reduced, the physically we get the benefit, the breathing, circulation, flow of the lubrication. And when the greed is reduced, it increases the power of creativity, flexibility, and vitality. So if the greed is high, if the ignorance is high, ignorance is related to the Vata. If the ignorance is high, it increases the anxiety, dryness, constipation, restlessness. So that all symptoms related to the ignorance. And at the same time, the Pitta related to the fire and the water element. And the Pitta is spiritually related to the anger. So if the anger is reduced, and physically it affects for our digestive system, metabolism, and energy. And if the mentally, it affects for our intelligence and courage and the strength. So in case, if the anger is high, it increases the power of irritability, inflammation, acidity, heat in the body, that mainly related to the cancer. And the copper means the water and the earth elements, it related to the greed. So this is very important. Nowadays, people try to reduce the weight, and people always health-wise try to keep the body shape. You know? So, but sometimes they don't see it come out of the greed. But here, that if the greed is reduced, what happened as a result of that, physically we experience stability, that the structure, that's mean the body pattern, and lubrication, that's mean flexibility. So mentally, it brings when the greed is reduced, mentally it gives the strength and the being patient, emotional steadiness. So that means when the greed is high, we emotionally go unbalanced.
Hmm.
So, and when the greed is high, that it helps to gain the weight gain and attachment, and then the unbalance. So physically, that we see here, the greed, hatred, and the delusion related to the vata, pitta, and the kapha. So that's mean basically very fundamental elements of our body related to our mental behavior. So when that mental behavior, that greed, hatred, and the delusion can reduce by developing self-awareness. That's mean in the present moment, or practicing any kind of meditation, especially that loving kindness meditation and the satipatthana. So when it comes to that, what happens, it when we into the present moment, it reduces the power of the greed, hatred, and the delusion, because in the present moment there is no greed, hatred, or the delusion. Greed, hatred, and the delusion arise always related to something past or the future, and with somebody or something. So because the mind always go behind the objects. So that's why when it come to practicing meditation or being here, this solitude, as I mentioned the meaning of the word, that when we come to the self-centered, that moment of experience with the awareness and physical separation or mental balance, in that way, we get out of the greed, hatred, and the delusion. Fundamentally, if the person maintain the mind reducing the power of the greed, hatred, and the delusion, physically that person going to get the health and the well-being out of the physical, mental, verbal behavior. That person going to give you more meaningful, profitable the lifestyle around that person. So in that way, we can see here that more and more, if we develop this this solitude state, it helps us to gain the physical wellness and at the same time mental wellness. So finally, as we know, the spiritual journey itself means it's not going to happen just overnight. It is a process. So, and the physical part we have to take care, and at the same time, as a result of that, mental part also going to become more better. So in this way, I think that overall, reducing the power of the greed, hatred, and the delusion help us to gain this physical and mental health and the well-being. So
that is a very interesting concept you have presented, Venerable Shanta Sobana. And it's I think that is also in line with the details of the sutta, where we see where I'm not taking delight in the form, feeling, perception, and mental formation and consciousness. Basically, these are the five psychophysical entities known as the Panchaskandha, not getting attached to them. When a person becomes free from the attachment to these five aggregates and can become free from the defilements, that is the kind of solitude that you're saying, right? So I know Venerable Trudeau raised his hand, Bante Rahula, he has already left. I was going to ask the question from him, but it's okay. So I know we don't have any formality, like we go with the flow, and if any Venerable would like to present the ideas, and of course I invite that Venerable monk to talk. So now I see Venerable Trudeau. So what's in your mind, Venerable Trudeau from Florida?
Thank you. Salutations to all of the venerables and most venerables present here today. Thank you for having me. I think just like the rest of lay people out there, I only have an hour to put this sutta together and make sense of it and jump on it with the speed of the Florida monk. upon looking at this sutta, we look at the auspicious night. And for all of the young people out there, or people who go out a lot, and there's a lot of people that go out a lot, and the common saying we always check with one another is, so how did that go? So how was your night? And how did that night turn out? When I looked at the access to insight for this in the first two paragraphs, the night, including quotation mark, seems to be a 24-hour rather than a 12-hour night. And words have got it around. The only time people will really, they have so said, the only time you're actually fully enlightened is when you're in love. And if you think about that, yeah, it's a lot of truth to that. When you're in love, you tend to focus on this person, perhaps your honeymoon, perhaps the day of the marriage, the night of thereafter seeing the clergies. You really focus on this present moment with this person, how they smile, how you share pictures, memories, and so on. And that was a awesome night, one would say. Anytime anyone goes out at night and have a drink and have good time, laughed, and then drag yourself home, would describe that was a pretty good night. Of course, there's consequences after that. Then we look at the sutta and we analyze in the middle of it. One, you shouldn't chase after the past or place expectations on the future. What is past is left behind. What is past is left behind. How powerful to see this in its writing in front of us. How powerful to see it again, because how many of our friends have reminded us it's over. It's behind you. Just let it be. Don't recycle it. Don't recycle the past, which constitutes depression. The future has yet unreached. And so ardently developing the heart, how you develop the heart, ardently doing, there is no bargaining with mortality and this mighty horde. When we look at the bargaining part, that gives insight into the lawyer in our head, how monks advises us to meditate, to spend time alone, the necessary solitude, not just for you, but for the entire world during this time of turbulence. And how the lawyer in our head says, nah, go out, have a drink, have a great night. Why sit here? Why sit here for 1 hour? Why sit here and cultivate jhana? Why sit here for a couple of hours or 40 minutes, 20 minutes of samadhi? Why, right? Everyone's got that lawyer in one's head. So when I started analyzing this with the limited time that I had, it brought a smile to my face, because I see the practicality and the clinical implications of it. Then when we look at the quote here, it says not taken in. So whatever quality is present, you clearly see right there, comma, right there, which is like, big underline statement. Not taken in, comma, unshaken. That's how you develop the heart. That's two things, developing the heart. Number one, you develop the right view of seeing the present quality, the quality of the present moment. Once again, right there. It's right there in front of you. And then the second thing is the clinical aspect, medicinal aspect of developing one's actual clinical heart. The one thing that pumps your blood every single day, the untiring muscle beating billions of times in one's natural human life. And everyone knows that I have returned back to clinical setting, and particularly here in St. Pete at the Heart Institute at Northside Hospital, where I'm working a lot of cardiology cases. And 95% according to my observations and interpreting for these patients, they have a lot of anxiety, not because of the heart condition, but the anxiety led them to the heart condition. Anxiety led them to the heart disease that they have accumulated over time. Today's sutta discussion talks about health, and the Buddha advises us that the greatest wealth is our health. And when I get to sit there in front of patients, I just take it all in. I really do. I just take the presenting symptoms and their whole life as a totality through my eyes, and I just wonder and I feel bad for them. I do, with a lot of compassion, an abundance of deep compassion. And I sometimes I dance around with questions, and I ask them, so have you ever meditated in your life? So do you know a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha? Because most of them are Vietnamese, and a lot of them, they shake their head, and I wondered what their life could have been, how their health could have been improved. The prevention of now leading to stress tests, of now leading to or other organic, very strenuous type of tests, and the fear in the present moment that they may need a pacemaker or a heart transplant, and the prognosis and heart failure. The very last case was last week with heart failure. That's not good news, and it's scary. So when we look at how the developing of the heart, the samadhi aspect of the threefold training, we see, here, I'm just wanting to remind this